Back from a wonderful vacation, we talk fantasy. Chet Davis, Kyle Ray, Goz here with you, getting you ready for your fantasy football drafts, hopefully this month. I feel like I have to be a good host and polite to ask both of you how the last 2 weeks have been. Chet, I will start with you. You're now a married man. You just got back from Costa Rica. Congratulations. If you're watching our video side, Chet forgot to put his ring on, and that's okay.
I was gonna show it off a little bit, and then I must have taken it off at some point. So, but it's a very valuable 1999 silicone ring. But no, it was fantastic. Kyle was a groomsman at my wedding, and I was up near Lake Placid. Beautiful weather, great weekend, and then me and the missus went to Costa Rica. So we got back last week. It's been a whirlwind. That's why we couldn't tape last week. But happy to be back and ready for some fantasy football, baby. Woo!
Kyle, Florida, you're enjoying the nice warm weather as well?
Yeah, couldn't complain. Came off one heck of a weekend. Probably one of my favorite, one of the best long weekends I've had in a long, long time. Like I told Chet, probably ever.
Aside from your wedding, you got to put that disclaimer because that is how you get divorced. I'm pretty sure. I've only been married for like 2 weeks.
Didn't I put that in your interview when you interviewed me for that Michigan State thing?
Yeah. Your wedding day is slowly like falling as your top moments of your life.
No, Tampa was awesome. We literally had a house that had a waterfall pool with a lazy river that ended up being on it, so you could like go around the outside. It was pretty awesome. Warm weather, lots of drinks, and I ate way too much food.
Oh, I'm with you on that. Full disclaimer for anybody that is watching, we did not plan the bucket hats or safari hats, whatever you want to call them. It's just our style is impeccable. So eventually Goz will catch on that this is
I love bucket hats. I love them. I wear them all the time. I've worn them this summer. The fact that you both walked in here, sat down, I see the Bills Mafia right there. Is that a Bills themed bucket hat right there? Is that what I see? Yeah, look at that.
Sir.
The fact that I didn't get the bucket hat memo.
Does yours button on the side?
What's that?
Is yours button on the side? So you get
no buttons.
See, I'm like multiple use right here. If I'm like chilling or if I'm like, game on, we're clipped on the side, baby.
Look at that.
Let's go.
Kyle's definitely has more of a beach feel. Chet's has got a lot more Crocodile Dundee, Costa Rica exploring feel to it.
Game on, you tighten it right up, and you're ready to go. We're chilling right now, so we're halfway. We're half-mast.
At some point, I may grab my bucket hat while you guys are giving a take. Who knows? I've been, by the way, putting mileage on my Honda Pilot thanks to Mohawk Honda. This summer, if you're traveling, maybe you're not in the plane, maybe you're on the road as the dog has just walked in here. It's not even my dog. It's my sister-in-law's dog, but she came to our place thanks to Mohawk Honda. Selection is king this summer. So if you're stocking your Pilot up with animals or children or in-laws or whatever it might be, the best ride for you is the Pilot. I love it. The best vehicle I've ever had. Thanks to Mohawk Honda. Stop in again. Selection is king. The inventory that Mohawk Honda has is like nothing upstate New York dealerships have. They have what you want, especially when you're looking to trade in your vehicle. You'll get the price back that you deserve. Plus, you'll drive off the lot with the vehicle that you want. Mohawk Honda, where they always go out of their way to please you. Proud sponsors of We Talk Fantasy. Mohawk Honda has not put a representative in the Gozilla Media Fantasy Football League this season. Our pals at Johnstone Supply in Troy did. And don't worry, we'll get to those guys in a little bit. But first, for those of you drafting this week or throughout the month, we got to talk about Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott, the Dallas Cowboy quarterback, ran Dakota Prescott. Adam Schefter, Chet, I think it was you, and I'm going to start with you on this. You sent us a private direct messages of how we talk, by the way. No text message mass group. We go straight DM Twitter chat. The report, Adam Schefter saying that Dak Prescott may never be 100% back this season. How do you interpret that report from Schefter?
Not great, to be honest. Like when you're going into a draft and you have to worry about the health of especially a quarterback, because that affects the entire offense. Like I'm not sure if we're going to touch on Saquon Barkley being on a snap count. That obviously, from my perspective, he drops pretty far down my board when I have to worry about how much usage is he going to get in the first month of the season. When now you're talking about the quarterback of a Cowboys offense that was so prolific last year. Like everybody ate in that offense when Dak Prescott was running things. Now that we don't know what kind of Dak Prescott we're going to see, that affects Zeke, That affects Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup. Like now I'm like, do I stay away from the Cowboys? Where a few weeks ago, I was like, I want as many Cowboys as I can because that offense is going to be so great. And unless they've improved that defense, I don't know if they have, they're going to have to be scoring a lot of points if they're going to be winning football games. So, yeah, I'm pretty concerned with this report, especially a couple weeks before the season kicks off.
Kyle, you feel the same way Chet does about the report?
Exactly the same. And the bigger concern for me was I'm pretty sure like the 2 days after we originally started talking about like our quarterbacks in the last podcast. By the way, should we be talking about players? Because every time we talk about a player, some sort of news breaks. Rodgers broke when after that. So, but that's the point. The bigger concern for me though is that it wasn't just the shoulder. Now the ankle is coming into play even more. So they're talking about now the shoulder and the ankle. So no, right on board with Chet. Dak, I think, was my 4 or 5 quarterback that I had ranked, if I'm not mistaken. So obviously I'm very high on Dak, especially when he's healthy. And is he going to drop? 100%. If there's a lot of concerns on that, he drops, Zeke drops, CeeDee drops. Everybody on that offense drops. Because we all saw what happened when Dak wasn't running it. And nobody was valuable with the exception of CeeDee at the end of it and Amari every now and then, but nothing that you can rely on. So from a fantasy perspective, definitely need to keep a massive eye on that, especially as this week we are going to start seeing a lot more fantasy drafts coming up. You've got to pay a close attention to this Dak situation because, you know, you're looking at rounds, and I mean plural for all of those guys. If Dak is even 75%, Zeke probably drops to the 3rd round potentially with that injury, and then who knows where Amari and CeeDee all them fall.
Yeah, the Dak Prescott situation. I like what LeBron James has said about this. He said this recently on his HBO show, The Shop, about 100%. He said he stopped being 100% the first time his feet hit the ground on an NBA training facility because his body wasn't the same. He knew his body was going to prepare. And when you go to those off seasons, it's never 100%. You're never 18 to 22 years old again, where you might be the prime peak of your careers if you're drafted or signed the scholarship. You're never going to hit that again. Now for Dak Prescott, go ahead.
That's like the saying of like, today's the oldest I've ever been. Like,
right.
Every day is one day past my prime. Come on.
Yeah. So there's no chart that tells us, like, you know, the old video games where you see the bar of energy filled up of how much Dak Prescott actually has taking the field. The ankle is going to be a concern. I don't know if you guys have been watching HBO's Hard Knocks, but Dak has been getting frustrated in some of these episodes that he's not getting on the field as much because he's on a pitch count, a clock situation, sabermetrics and analytics of how it's happening. What's happened because of this story, I feel like Dak Prescott's going to play. He's not going to miss time. It seems as if he's still going to play. But from a fantasy perspective, Dak Prescott went from, oh my God, I'm so excited I got Dak when I did in the draft too. Oh boy, I got to handcuff fast. And the thought in my head is like, okay, if you're going to, we'll just say 10th, right? Let's say you think on your personal rankings, you got like Dak Prescott 10th. Okay, maybe you want to go after like a Justin Fields or a Trevor Lawrence to see what he does early. Well, if Dak's not 100% and you're going with a rookie in September, you're not getting the points you want. It's hard to figure out the right match of who you take after Dak, which you went from really being super excited about having Dak to this got a lot more complicated really fast.
Go for Fitzmagic. Get Fitzmagic early in the season because you know it's not going to last. He's going to come out guns a-blazing, and then he's going to – I don't know why he falls off the face of the earth. But, yeah, like you said, we don't even know if Justin Fields is going to start week 1. So those are the guys that might be making big impacts in the second half of the season. They get a little more familiar, get used to the NFL, pace, although I guess Justin Fields says it's pretty slow out there for him. But, yeah, if you do want to go for Dak Prescott or – that's the thing. Like, I don't know how you back up the weapons if you go after the guys that we've mentioned. But if you're going to go after Dak, you got to have a plan B, and it's got to be somebody that you know is going to be playing week 1. And at this point, to be honest, I don't think it's too crazy to look at matchups. If you're going to see, all right, who has a great first month of quarterback matchups? Who's a guy that I want to get late in the draft that maybe no one else is keeping on their radar, but might have a few easy games early on that if I can't play Dak, I want to see it first before I put him in my starting lineup. I know this guy's going to be serviceable. Like, you know what? You know a good example of this would be, and I don't know what his schedule looks like, but a Kirk Cousins. If Kirk Cousins plays the Detroit Lions week 1, I mean, we could look this up. But you know what I mean? If you have a matchup like that, you're like, you know what? Let me just get this guy in my last pick so I know that I have my QB1 for 1 week, and then I'll see what Dak Prescott does and how much he actually is, playing like himself.
You gave 2 really good examples there. Veteran quarterbacks who know the league, who know the matchups. The Ryan Fitzpatrick one in particular, I can't remember if it was you, Chet, or your CBS 6 colleague, Gardner Royce, who believes Washington as a team overall in the NFL has a chance to get all the way to the NFC title game this season with good coach. Oh, it was you, Chet. Okay. I know he's got the DC roots, so that's why I thought it might have been Gardner.
Oh, I think he's probably rubbed off on me a little bit in the CBS 6 sports office. But no, I'm high on that team in a fantasy perspective and in reality. I think they have some great weapons on offense. Antonio Gibson, I think, is going to be a stud. I love McLaurin lined up with Curtis Samuel. I think that offense is going to be pretty scary. And then from a real football standpoint, the defense, top 5, pretty easy.
Best defensive line, no doubt.
Chase Young's going to mess some people up. So, yeah, I think that team, I think they're going to be tops in the NFC East, especially now that we're looking at what's Dak's situation. The Eagles might be a mess. The Giants will probably be in the middle somewhere, but I think the Washington football team, clear-cut favorites to win that division.
Yeah, and luckily that this year with all this Dak news too, like we talked about a couple weeks ago, this is such a heavy quarterback year. I feel like you can now say, I don't need to draft Dak in the 6th, 7th round. With all this injury, he is going to drop. You can maybe now reach for Kirk Cousins or somebody along those lines in that 6th round, 7th round, maybe not even then. Maybe you can.
I don't think you have to reach for Kirk Cousins. I think he'll probably be available super late.
Yeah.
But some of the other guys you're talking about, like everyone else starts moving up. The Justin Herberts, maybe leapfrog Dak. And that's where things are going to get a little bit more interesting of which guys get drafted earlier now that Dak might be sliding past them.
It's interesting, the movement involved in the quarterback position and where you now have these quarterbacks. If you missed it, by the way, go back on Apple, go back on Spotify, or right here on YouTube, potentially if you're watching our visual side, our playlist, where we gave our quarterback rankings, our top 5, our reach, and our run. A quarterback you want to take before maybe most people might, and a quarterback that won't be on your roster. Let's keep that thing going here as we prepare for these big drafts with the running back position. If you guys don't mind, I want to go first because I have a feeling we're going to have maybe as high as 8 to 10 running backs in our mix here of different names that are going to be mentioned.
Woo!
Go ahead, Kyle.
No, I think you're right.
Should we? All right, here's because we usually go like one at a time. Go through. Should we go 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2?
Ooh, I like it too. Okay,
hey guys, you want to lead us off?
Yeah. Okay, so we're looking at the number 1 spot, is what you're talking about, right?
I bet this is going to be unanimous.
Christian McCaffrey.
Dalvin Cook.
Ooh.
Wow. Why Cook, Kyle? We'll let you take the floor. Why is Cook your number 1 running back this season?
The last 2 years, we have said this exact same thing. Why is Dalvin Cook not the number 1 running back? We have. I mean, look at what he's done the last 2 years. I know that offense should not take a step back this year. The offensive line cannot get any worse than it was last year, and still Dalvin ran all over the field. You also have a much better passing game in Minnesota to where you're not going to need to completely run Dalvin into the ground like CMC. My biggest fear with CMC is exactly what happened last year. Usage, he touches the ball 30 times a game, which is great from a fantasy perspective. But when he goes down, there goes your first draft pick. I feel confident. Dalvin has some hamstring injuries and I think ankle. But
I think he tore his knee as a rookie.
Thank you. Yes, that's what it was. Yeah. But the usage for Dalvin, I just find so much safer, and he produces maybe 10% less than CMC. I'm going Dalvin Cook as my number 1.
So not to jump ahead of my number 2 is Dalvin Cook. So it's not like I'm right. It's crazy to think that Dalvin's your number 1. But I don't, and am I alone on this? You mentioned some of the injury concerns that Dalvin's had earlier in his career. It actually goes all the way back into college. Like he's been a guy that has
the knee in Florida, right?
He is a rookie. I think it was also hamstrings in college. And so I hate, you cannot play fantasy football trying to predict injuries. It's impossible. You can do what we talked about with Dak, where you're reading into preseason injuries and okay, guys, or like a Michael Thomas, where it's all right, even if he does come back, I don't know how productive he will be because we saw what he was last year.
Yep.
So because right now we think Dalvin Cook's 100%. even on the LeBron James scale. Like he's doing this with no concerns of a nagging injury. But in my head, I'm like, I feel like he's due for an injury. And I hate to say that. I don't hope injury upon anyone. But like he's had 2 healthy years relatively. And I'm like, it's got to be coming because they do use him a lot. And because of the history, it scares me. And I'm not, so far in my drafts, I'm not even going to have a chance to take him. So I'm not going to have that worry. If he does stay healthy, he's top 2 hands down. I have this hesitation of, I feel like it's coming. And I hope it doesn't because he's so fun to watch. But that's my only concern. CMC, sure. Last year he had it as well. His was a little more fluky. It was like the rolled ankle, right? Yeah, it was like an ankle sprain. Guys get ankle sprains. You could be the healthiest, sturdiest person in the world. You get an ankle sprain. You step on someone's foot, out of your control.
I love Dalvin Cook as a player. I've loved him since Florida State. I mean, if you say you're the all-time leading rusher in the history of Florida State football, he was underrated. He should not have gotten to the second round of that NFL draft. Way too good. But I feel like if you're in a non-PPR league, which is definitely the minority now, I could hear the Cook case. But if we're talking receptions out of the backfield, I know Sam Darnold's there now, so just working with a different quarterback, is he going to view McCaffrey as really a wide receiver almost? When you look at his numbers and his yardage, he almost is a wide receiver, productive with that. It's just so hard for me to say no to McCaffrey. But the one thing I will say in advantage of Cook in this argument, and I cannot believe we have 2 Dalvin Cook fans, 3 Dalvin Cook fans. We're all fans of Cook, like we really are. The one thing that I would say that hurts when we evaluate McCaffrey's projections, and I think Michael Thomas, somebody just mentioned, I think it was Chet who just said it, like when we talk about projections, Michael Thomas, no doubt, was the guy, the wide receiver 1 last year. Like if you got to pick, you're going Michael Thomas. And he was terrible. He fought through injuries. He wasn't productive on the field. And when he was out there, he wasn't good. So Christian McCaffrey's barely on the field last year, but when he is on the field in a small sample size, he's good. Everyone says, all right, he's the number 1 running back again. Okay, so what if McCaffrey sucked in those 2 games? Then he would be a bum? Like, that's the hard part about these projections, where sometimes I feel like in fantasy football, people get so caught up in like a 4-game window where if they were good for that 4 games or that 1 month, well, they'll be good forever. Well, Michael Thomas was good for years. Antonio Brown was good for years. McCaffrey was good, but was only good for a handful of games last year. But if that's all it takes to be the number 1 running back, I feel like there should be more of a discussion. I'm glad we had it because Dalvin Cook deserves that respect. All right, so back to Kyle. Would you have McCaffrey at 2? Okay.
Yep. 1, 2. And I think right there, that's tier 1. Like Derrick Henry has his place in tier 1 in non-PPR. If it's PPR, it's down.
Henry is 1. If it's non-PPR,
yeah, I'm
probably going Derrick Henry.
Right. 100% agreed. But if you're looking at traditional leagues, half point or full point, tier 1 is Cook / McCaffrey. Like I think there's a good argument for either or.
Here's the only reason I had, and by the way, that's my top 3. I flipped Henry to 2 because when I was looking through the stats, there is something about seeing that 2 in front of rushing yards. When you see somebody run for 2,000 yards in a season, I get it. The regular season is now 17 games instead of 16, so these magical numbers may not feel the same for younger NFL fans. But when I see that 2, and I know how good he is, and I think the Titans are another team that's a serious Super Bowl contender this season. If they don't want to let Ryan Tannehill win games for you, let Derrick Henry do it. We both already touched on injury concerns for McCaffrey and Cook. If you told me at the end of this season, Derrick Henry is going to run for 1,700 yards and score double-digit touchdowns again, yeah, I mean, that's probably what he's going to do. So with the injury concerns of the other 2 and how much of a monster Derrick Henry has legit been since he was a high school football player, where he's got the records across the country and everything else, I had that as my top 3, McCaffrey, Henry, Cook.
Wow. I have a different guy in my 3. So your 3rd is Henry, Kyle?
Yeah, my 3rd is Henry.
I'm going Alvin Kamara.
Ooh.
So I go with that with a similar outlook as CMC. I think that the usage is going to be insane. He's essentially a wide receiver with how many receptions he gets out of that backfield. We're going to see just how good Sean Payton is. And I think he's one of those guys. He obviously loved Drew Brees, but it's almost like the Brady Belichick, Manny Dungy. Like Peyton and Brees were linked. And it's like, well, which one's actually better? Is it Brees or is it Sean Payton? Well, now we're going to see just how good Sean Payton is. If he can figure out whether it's Jameis Winston or Taysom Hill, the Hall of Famer's gone. How good is this offense going to be, which now no longer has Michael Thomas? Name another weapon on this offense.
Wait. Why do you say no to Michael Thomas? You don't feel like he's going to be the same type of productive receiver as he is, or the injury, the pup stuff and everything else? Yeah.
He's not going to be there for the first at least month, right?
Yeah.
So, for the first month, who else is a weapon for Jameis Winston?
Tay Murray, that's about it, but that's not our true weapon. Taysom Hill's going to line up like Tebow as a tight end.
I think we got Traquan Smith.
Yeah.
I think he might be wide receiver 1. But seriously, it becomes hard to figure out. Don't they have a guy like Tommy Lee something? Tommy Lee
I think he was from the band Motley Crue, if I'm not mistaken.
But so what I'm saying is, it is going to be the Alvin Kamara show, and they're going to have to get creative. They're not just going to hand it off to him. They're going to keep doing the dump passes, get him out in space as quickly as possible. And those are just quick points, whether you're playing half-point PPR or full PPR. And he's just one of the most talented guys. I mean, we see the jaw-dropping plays every Sunday. His ability to keep his balance, to break what most running backs make 5 yards, he somehow makes 50. And so that's why I have Alvin Kamara as my 3, is the usage. He's going to see insane workload, especially early on. He's one of those guys. I mean, all these guys are freaks, and that's why they're so good. But he's the guy where I see his workouts. It's him and Derrick Henry that post their workouts a lot. And I'm like, these guys are cut from a different cloth. The things that they do, I'm just like, my God, how does anybody ever tackle you? And so, Alvin Kamara is my 3. I think he's just phenomenal.
I want Kyle to respond, but Kyle and I had a little chat before you connected, Chet, about Kamara. So I'm going to hold off on his answer for now because I have Kamara at 4. Okay. The only thing that concerns me, I have 2 thoughts on Kamara. I was in a draft last year where I was a 50-50 pick. I was between Kamara and Barkley.
And you went Barkley?
And of course I went Barkley. So I hold that grudge, especially watching Kamara tear it up last season. I'm like, these are the things that make fantasy football so great and so awful.
You're holding a grudge on Saquon, not Kamara.
I know. In my mind, I'm like, you did that to me. You should have told me. You should have been on my team. Why weren't you vocal enough about it?
Yes. That New Orleans voodoo.
Yes.
Saquon doll just for you.
And by the way, Taysom Hill is the other concern. Is he going to steal goal line touches for Kamara? Because if Taysom Hill is the starter, that's very possible.
Sure.
Go ahead, Kyle. What your take on Kamara was, because I have a feeling it's going to surprise Mr. Chet Davis.
Kamara didn't make my top 5.
Woo!
And for me personally, it's not a matter of talent. We know what Kamara has. He's a freak. Period. End of story. It's for all the points that you guys made. I know he's going to probably be the workhorse, but what does that offense look like now?
So my rebuttal to that is, what's the difference in the Panthers offense? You have Sam Darnold and DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel's gone. I feel like those are going to be similar productive offenses.
Fair point.
It's one of those, even if the Saints get shut out, you're going to assume Kamara's going to have 10 catches. Like 10 catches, 80 yards with no touchdowns. I could live with that.
Right.
That's still above average. So that's why, I hear your point, because I do not know. Part of me is like, is Jameis Winston going to go off? Am I crazy for thinking that there's a chance?
Why do you think Winston's the starter?
That's what I was going to say.
I didn't say he'd be the starter. I think they could bring out multiple sets. I think that there's a chance that Jameis, with his new didn't he get LASIK?
Yes.
With his new eyeballs, maybe he'll be able to read the defenses a little bit better, eat some dubs, nom, 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 nom. And I don't know. Part of me thinks Jameis might be able to figure it out.
Think about this offense, the wishbone offense with Taysom, Jameis, and then Kamara. Who's going to snap?
I love it, man. Bring back the wishbone. Who do you have it for, Kyle, and why?
I actually have Nick Chubb. I don't think a lot of people respect what Nick Chubb can do. The biggest concern with some people is that there's so many weapons on that offense, and you kind of saw it a little bit last year as Baker really made a good stride forward with Jarvis and Odell and Higgins, and everybody on that offense seemed to click. Obviously, Chubb wasn't needed as much. I'm just hoping that they go back to their roots of when Chubb touches the ball, the Browns are scary. And if Chubb can touch the ball 20 times a game, he's going to rack up 120 yards. Yeah, you're going to lose some touches to
Kareem
Hunt with passing and everything like that. But, I mean, Chubb, if they get within the 5, you know where the ball's going. It's going into Nick Chubb's hands. So I've actually put Chubb at 4. I'm very high on Nick Chubb. I'm high on a lot of that Browns offense this year. But I do like Chubb this year. I'm really thinking that this is going to – is breakout term the right because he's always been good, but I think he could be leading the league in rushing if they get a hold of that offense and they get rolling. I like Nick Chubb this year a lot.
If Cleveland understands that Baker Mayfield throwing the ball 30 to 35 times is not how you win, it's handing off behind that really good offensive line in Hunt and Chubb. That's the difference from them being a team that wins in the playoffs last year to making that next step towards a conference championship or even a Super Bowl. That's the answer. It's weird because a lot of times in fantasy when we talk about that second string running back, and we've done it already a few times, how we feel like it hurts their stock, it feels different with Chubb because it feels like it's almost a compliment. Right. Like, hey, if they didn't have a former NFL rushing leader as a rookie in Kareem Hunt, what would Chubb's stats be? And we talked about how good an actual football player is. You watch Nick Chubb get the football in his hands. I feel like he's going to score every time. Not because of speed, because I'm like, who the hell is going to tackle this guy? Does he have like no arm covers either? He just like bare boned running the football like a madman. I don't have Chubb in my top 5, but he is a player that I'm like, if he's on my team, just get out of the way. I got Nick Chubb. I don't have to touch that for the rest of the season.
Multiple questions about Chubb. Let's say you draft him. If you're in Kyle's situation, you have to draft him in your top 5, maybe top 6. How aggressively do you go after Kareem Hunt? Do you want them on the same team? And this, I guess the part B of that question, is this a backfield that you would feel comfortable starting them both?
To quote, I'm pretty sure you did that last year, didn't you?
No, I wish I could. I could have.
I don't know how aggressive I'd go with it. I'm not willing to start them at 1-2 running back. I'd be willing to start 1 flex.
That's kind of what I'm looking at. I'm not saying that you should go in with those being your top 2 running backs, but for your own sanity, because you know it's going to happen where there's going to be a situation where you wish it had gone to Chubb and then Kareem Hunt gets the touchdown and vice versa. So to know that you're going to get, because that we can all agree in terms of 1-2 punches, no one's even close in the NFL to those two, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the top 2 running backs, the best tandem or duo in the NFL. I mean, combined, you could be looking at $150 on the ground with Kareem and him. You're saying 5 to 6 catches a game,
2 touchdowns.
Touchdowns. Like, dude, you combine that backfield. I mean, they're putting up
close to 40
plus 40 a game.
I mean, so
I'd consider it. I would definitely consider it because then on the flip side, and we saw it last year, if one of them goes down, they immediately become solidified top 5 running backs.
Right.
They've already think Chubb could be there.
I think when you look at that too, it's like when I'm thinking of some teams like the Jets, the Patriots, the Bills, the AFC East, from the running back standpoint, I'm taking Kareem Hunt over all of those running backs. So where does Kareem Hunt fall? 20th? So if he's sitting there in round 4 or round 5, you sitting there going, sure, let's take him. You know what? If he was probably sitting at round 4 and I had Chubb and then I had a wide receiver, I wouldn't hate taking Kareem Hunt at all.
Yes and yes to the answer. How important is it to get him on the team? Yes. And would you start them both? Yes, because almost we're talking about the Browns, right? But if you thought about Kareem Hunt and just didn't know the team and just looked at the flat numbers, you would probably rank, just spitballing here, 25th, top 25 fantasy football running back Kareem Hunt. Oh, yeah. He's probably better than 6 guys who are going to start this season. So if you've got 2 top 25 running backs, he plays for Cleveland, but like you just said, Chet, there's a good chance he puts up 80 yards and a touchdown. And I can't consistently say that about every running back in the league, especially that bottom tier of it. I'm going to go back to you, Chet, because we still got one more spot left in our reach and run. So number 5, who's your 5th on your top 5?
By the way, I don't think I said it, but it's no surprise. My number 4 was Derrick Henry. So Henry only slid down past Kamara. My 5, and I have a feeling that Kyle and I might sync up on this. I'm going Austin Eckler.
Oh, that's a good one. I like it. It wasn't though.
Aaron Jones?
Yes.
Put
some respect on him.
But so I'm going Austin Eckler. And it kind of goes, there's a theme with this top 5, aside from Derrick Henry, who's his own special category of running back. But these guys are pass catchers. And they have, at least for Eckler's situation, really like the Justin Herbert situation. I think that offense is going to take a step forward. Some delicious burritos this year for sure. Call Austin Eckler the Cool Ranch. I mean, give that guy the ball. Another guy you're looking at where it's 6 to 8. You could even see 10 receptions in a game from a guy like Austin Eckler. And not a whole lot of competition. We saw it a little bit when Eckler went down and there was chances for those backups. I know people were high on the rookie out of Northwestern. Who? Joshua Kelly is one of the guys, but there's another one, Justin Jackson. Yeah. And so we saw those guys, and they didn't wow you. Like, no one took over, and now you're like, oh, this is going to be a split. Like, sure, those guys are going to get their, relieve Austin Eckler at times, but it is the Austin Eckler show. Melvin Gordon, long gone. And so when I look at that kind of usage and you're talking about half point or full point PPR, I think Austin Eckler is going to be a beast.
Kyle, you said Aaron Jones. You had Jones. Do you want to reconsider? Are you going to flop Jones for Eckler now?
Well, I didn't convince you. Can I say two more words?
What's that?
Can I say 2 more words to change your mind? AJ Dillon.
Yep.
Continue.
Yep. And you and I literally had that conversation just the other day. No, but I think I put it similar to the Dalvin Cook scenario. Put some respect on a guy's name for the last 2 years that everybody just shits on. Nobody cares about Aaron Jones ever. And he's sitting there scoring 3 and 4 touchdowns every other week and running for 156 yards and then catching 6 passes out of the backfield. But again, they love Dillon. That organization, we've all agreed, is in shambles, but like they don't know what the hell they're doing. But I cannot deny the fact of that this is going to be Aaron Jones, the Aaron Jones show. He got paid. He's got Rodgers for 1 more year. It's going to be the Super Bowl run, or if that's it for them. I think I like Aaron Jones this year. AJ Dillon could put a big scare to that because of like you said, Chet, there could be a timeshare there a little bit, but I think you have to put some respect on Aaron Jones, especially for what he's done, because I don't see that offense changing much.
I'm combining my 5th pick and Aaron Jones on this one. What I mean is I have Zeke at 5 because now with all these Dak Prescott question marks, if they're just going to let Zeke run the football or let him get those touches and be the beast in the backfield that we know he can be, it's really tempting to see whatever Zeke is going to be at that 5th spot. So because of that, I have Zeke at 5. Go ahead. But I know you despise Zeke, Kyle. You despise Zeke Elliott after last season.
Said after last year.
And it's so funny because I come off the Zeke take and your Aaron Jones take. There is not a single player in fantasy football leagues, and this goes to my reach, that I want more on my roster than Aaron Jones. Like, that is my guy. That is the player. Kyle, you nailed it with your takes. Aaron Jones finished again last season in the top 4 in rushing yards. The season before, he was a top touchdown guy. You mentioned the contract, which I'm shocked he's actually in Green Bay because no NFL teams want to give him more money after all this production. And the potential of just a few goal line touchdowns if Rodgers doesn't want to throw the football, or the play calling where Green Bay tries to stick it to Rodgers, say, you're not that good. We're just going to give 1-yard carries to Jones and act like Rodgers isn't the king here. I adore Aaron Jones in 2021. I want him on every team. And I don't want to keep saying this because we're all in a league together. But if Aaron Jones is on the clock and I got after a top 5 pick, he's going to be on my roster. I love him this season.
It's funny you said that because I was like, how much do I reveal? Like, I feel like we got to have the draft and then we can talk about strategy. I don't want to give away too many secrets. But one thing that I'll say, because I mentioned AJ Dillon and Kyle talked about it as well, it's more and more common that NFL teams do have a legit number 2 running back, and the age of the workhorse, it's few and far between the Derrick Henrys, the Zeke Elliott's. The thing that concerns me about AJ Dillon is the size. And I'm not sure what they're going to do. I'm not in the Green Bay meeting room, but he's a big back. And big backs usually get goal line work. If you want Aaron Jones, he does also have that big injury concern or injury past from college years. And so maybe they want to keep him as healthy as possible for the middle of the field and then let AJ Dillon bulldoze people. That's what scares me the most. Like if you have let's use it for example. I was thinking of one. What's an example of Kareem Hunt is a perfect example. Kareem Hunt's not a big back. He can knock you over. But when you're thinking about Nick Chubb's going to get the goal line carries. Like he's the one, if you're inside the 3, it's going to Nick Chubb. if you're inside the 3 for the Packers, do we still know it's going to Aaron Jones, or is it going to go to A.J. Dillon? Is that going to like keep Aaron Jones from getting the 30-point games and keep him in the 20-point range? So that's my having a big back as talented that they think A.J. Dillon is. That's my concern.
Your guys, I think it's a very legitimate concern. And I hope, and I was trying to think in my head, like A.J. Dillon's such a beast at Boston College too. Such a really good player in that offense.
I think he's built for Green Bay.
Yes.
Like, the cold coming from Boston College where it also snows. And then we saw it a little bit last year when it was towards the end of the season in playoff time where he got the chance in the blizzard to go run crazy. I don't know what they're going to do, but I could see his workload increasing this year in year number 2.
So yeah, I kind of jumped. I was going to say I jumped the gun a little bit on the reach, so I'm just going to give my reach and run at the same time here. Sure. I'll go with the reach as Aaron Jones, and then my run. He will not be on any of my rosters. Is Jonathan Taylor from the Colts.
Ooh.
Jonathan Taylor is getting so hyped up this preseason draft time. My buddy Bert, shout out to him. He went off, got in a drunken rant about Jonathan Taylor on the beach a few weeks ago. I'm like, what has this bachelor party gotten to? How many have you had that you're ranting about Jonathan Taylor? And I'm like, there's no way these stats are real. So I had to look him up. He says, and he's absolutely right. How many times do you think Jonathan Taylor had games where he had more than 18 carries? More than 18 carries.
1 game.
3 is one guess.
Kyle said 1.
He had 5, but 3 of those games were past week 14. So really, if you know your fantasy football schedule, he didn't do anything for you the entire season. Right. But he got really hot in week 17, 16, 15. And we talked about those projections. It's like, yeah, that's great. But if I'm out of the playoffs, I got none of those points. I got none of that production. So because he was great late, he jumped up everybody's boards. I want nothing to do with Jonathan Taylor. I know there's questions involving the quarterback and Carson Wentz, but he's back to practice last we checked. Run away. Do not take. I would be furious if I somehow have to end up with Jonathan Taylor on one of my teams.
The bigger concern, and it breaks my heart saying it because you guys know how high I was on Jonathan Taylor last year, and he finally showed at the end of the year. The bigger concern for me with Jonathan Taylor is that offensive line is gone. Mm-hmm. Like, that offensive line is not the same that he ran behind last year, which was touted as the best offensive line in the NFL for the Colts. It's no longer there. So there's a lot of questions on what Taylor's going to be running behind. I 100% agree. I'm not going to go as far as I'm going to run away from him. Like, if he's sitting there later on and maybe like later on in the draft, I'm probably going to grab him. But
how late, Kyle?
That's the hard part.
There's no way he's making it out of the first round.
No.
So what?
I would say if he's there, probably, if honestly, with knowing my scenario with where I'm drafting at, I'm going to be drafting late 3rd every time. If he's probably there at the end of the 3rd round, I might take a flyer on him.
And I see what you're saying, the latter 3rd of the first round.
Yes.
So that you're talking about like picks 9, 10, 11, 12. You're taking them.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with that. I might go like, I feel like 8 is where it's like.
Yeah.
You're not excited if he's at 8, like, I got Jonathan Taylor at 8.
Do you guys have that situation? And there's another one that's going to be my runaway guy. And I'll save it, but like, you don't want to have to make the decision. Like,
yep.
Right. I know he's talented. He might be great. I don't even want it to be an option for me. I want someone else to just take him away. I don't have to think about it. And then because if you pass on him and he ends up being top 5, you're going to be like, I should have done it. What was I thinking? I overthought it. So yeah, there's a couple of guys like that where I'm like, please just don't let me make that decision.
Yep.
Who's your runaway? Oh, no,
my reach was Aaron Jones. My run was Jonathan Taylor. So either one of you guys can do your reach or run next.
I thought it was Kyle because he has such a great point on Jonathan Taylor. Would you like to go first?
So my reach, and I talked to you guys a little bit about him earlier in the year. If Chris Carson is there in the 2nd round, I am taking Chris Carson.
In the 2nd?
Yes. Well, probably not for me. Actually, now that I say that, not for me in the 2nd. Now that I think about it, back half of the 2nd round, late 2nd round, early 3rd. Chris Carson put in some work this offseason. I don't know if you guys saw some pictures floating around about the dude, but he is looking beastly. I was trying to figure out a PG word for that.
Kyle does his scouting on Instagram. He's like, let me see some pics. DK Metcalf, I want you on my team.
He has a third calf. It's weird. But I know that Rashad Penny, is it Rashad? Penny?
Yeah.
Rashad Penny's still there who may steal some touches. But again, when Chris Carson's healthy, he is a workload. He just handles everything in Seattle. So I'm definitely going to reach for Chris Carson if he's there late second, early third, depending on where I can have a chance at him. I'm high on him this year. I'm high on that entire Seattle offense, especially after they made some changes to the offensive line. I think they got 2 pieces new to the offensive line, so we'll see if they can protect him and run the ball a little better. But I definitely want to reach on Chris Carson's. My runaway, I'm in a similar situation as you, Chet. Please don't let him be there in the second round. I don't want him. I do not want to even have to think about taking him. Joseph Mixon. Nope. I'm good. I don't. We know, we've seen what he can do. He is an awesome back. His team is terrible. The offensive line is not good. They can't run the ball. They haven't been able to run the ball in 2 years. I'm not seeing them being able to run the ball again this year. And then at the same time, do we know what we're going to see with Burrow? We don't know. So just please don't even let me even have to think about taking Joe Mixon in the late second, early third, because I do not want to have my brain compute that.
Yeah. That offensive line was historically bad in Cincy. Like Joe Burrow's going to have some issues even when he's healthy to like move that football up and down the field. Jamar Chase is interesting because they're going to get blown out so often that at the wide receiver spot, he might be the only one who has fantasy relevance this season.
I like Higgins still in
Higgins, yeah.
Please don't let me take any Bengals.
Yeah, I don't know what I did to Joe Mixon. I had him on my team a couple years ago, and that obviously went just great. But I just happened, because he does have the ability to have a 3-touchdown game. And I just happened to play against him whenever that happens. And I don't know what I did to him. Because like you'll have that 5 points, 7 points. And I'm like, oh, I have nothing to worry about. 30 bomb dropped right on my head. Like, why? What did I do to deserve this?
That's just fantasy for you, Chet. You have the worst fucking fantasy.
Oh, it's just like guys could be in the worst drought, and they see, oh, Chet Davis? Hello. I'm going to ruin your Sunday. Okay. Someone who I will not let ruin my Sunday this year. I am running away from Saquon Barkley. Ooh. And it goes a very similar point when we're talking about when do you pull the trigger. I'm hoping Saquon Barkley does not fall and that someone just believes in the talent and thinks that, maybe after a month he'll be back to what we saw as a rookie. I don't want it. I don't like falling behind. No one likes falling behind. But that first month of the season, man, because that's when you start making, do I rip my roster apart decisions? If you start 1-3 or 2-5, like you start looking at the playoffs and you're like, dude, I got to start making moves. And so I don't want to be in that position where I'm worried about my number 1 pick, especially if I'm picking in the top 5. Like you want your top 5 guy to be a plug and start and never have to worry about it. And that's why, Kyle, we've talked about it. Travis Kelce, give me Travis Kelce because I never have to worry about it. Don't put him in. He's going to be the number 1 tight end against every matchup I see all year. Saquon Barkley, what is it going to look like the first few weeks? Like he could be RB2, like an RB2 tier kind of guy for the first couple weeks. So again, question for you guys, because maybe you're not as nervous as I am. At what point would you feel comfortable taking Saquon Barkley?
I think I told you this because a lot of my drafts I'm like 10, 11,
right.
9.
I'm at 9 for one of mine as well.
I think I'm comfortable taking him at 9 as much as I hate to say it. I don't. I agree with you. No. But there comes a point where it's like he will be the best back available. If you got to number 9 and you have all 7 of those running backs taken, Kelce at 8's gone, you look and you go, do I go Devontae Adams or do I go a running back with Saquon Barkley? I personally, I think I would choose Saquon.
Okay, so can we have a little name game, or I don't know if you call it the name game. So like would you rather?
Yep.
Would you rather Saquon Barkley or Antonio Gibson?
Saquon.
Big Barkley.
Ooh. Would you rather? Well, I guess we already know based on your top 5, Aaron Jones or Saquon?
Aaron.
Boy, if I'm 6, 7, or 8 and Kyle was spot on with 9, I think I wouldn't want to make that decision. I feel like I think I would go Saquon, and I would hate that one's the hardest right there. Like if you're at that 8 position and they're both on the board.
I just saw Goz.
Oh my God.
So great.
I think that's going to happen to me in a league where I'm going to have to pick between Aaron Jones and Saquon Barkley. You know what? I already changed it. I'm going Aaron Jones.
Yeah.
And if you ask me again in 2 more minutes, I'll probably change it again.
Everybody listening on Spotify.
What about
everybody listening on Spotify or Apple, go to the 44:30 mark and just look at Goz's face.
Yeah,
Please do.
A screenshot of that immediately. I'm telling you, that was his poop face. That's what he's trying to pick the girl in the morning. It's not coming. All right, what about?
I can't even deny it. It's true.
Saquon Barkley, Austin Eckler.
I would go Saquon because Saquon can catch out of the backfield too if he's actually. I think his numbers can be just as good as Eckler's, so I'd go Saquon.
I'm gonna go Eckler.
Woo! This is fun. All right, last one. I think this will be unanimous, but Saquon Barkley, Najee Harris.
Oh, Saquon.
Saquon, but Najee Harris has some really exciting stuff. You think back at people like Willie Parker and James Conner, what they've been able to do as young running backs. He's got some really fun potential.
All right, so I'm running away from Saquon. That was a fun game. I see that's what I'm talking about. Where someone just draft him before it gets to me. I just do not want to make that decision. I hope it works out for them. I hope he plays great.
No, you don't.
I know I don't. Idiot. But yeah, I just really hope that I hope in any draft that I'm in, I do not have to see his name and it's just already off the board. The guy that I am going to reach for, and I know he burned a lot of people last year. I'm high on Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I think he's gonna bounce back. Obviously, the offense is just freaking awesome. He was a rookie. Like it takes time. You're talking about Jonathan Taylor. It took him 3/4 of the season to really find his footing. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, on the other hand, had a great week 1. Where we're all like, yeah, that's why he was a first rounder. And then he kind of fell off. And so we still have Patrick Mahomes under center in Kansas City. That offense still has Andy Reid running it. Like they're going to figure out a way for Clyde Edwards-Helaire to be productive and make sure that it's not just a one-dimensional sling it on every down. And then again, I'm not too concerned about who's behind him. It's Darrell Williams. They did bring in Jerick McKinnon, who I feel like he's the guy every year where we're like, is Jerick McKinnon going to be a thing? And then he happens to get hurt and didn't work out in San Francisco.
How many ACLs has he torn? Like every year he gets one.
Dude, I don't know. It's like 9 lives for his ACL. Like he is literally just like they just keep regrowing. I mean, how much is left? Like, what are they putting in that knee at this point? Like some rubber bands to hold that knee together. But with that, I think CEH could be a top 10 running back this year. Not much higher. Like he's going to be like 9 or 10, but he's not being drafted like a 9 or 10 right now. So I think he's a guy you see him. It depends on where you're drafting, but if you get him as your RB2, I'm feeling really good about it. I'm feeling good about being my number 2.
Where are you reaching for him? Because obviously you won't reach for him in probably round 1 or maybe round.
No, I'd probably look for third or fourth round if he's there. I'm feeling like I want to make sure he's a guy I'm not going to wait on. I'm not going to overthink it. Like there's going to be some guys ahead of him. Like if we're looking at, it depends on what ranking you're looking at, but he's right around the J.K. Dobbins, Chris Carson, David Montgomery. That would be a tough one, not deciding between, for me, Edwards-Helaire and Chris Carson. That's a really good toss-up. Either guy could be great. Like DeAndre Swift, Josh Jacobs. I like Edwards-Helaire over all those guys. So if he's there, I'm feeling good about him being my second running back on my roster.
Just one thing to add about him, which is just a fascinating thing and a compliment to the Chiefs. I don't doubt that he could finish as a top 10 to 12 running back this season. But think about the Chiefs. You could have the number 1 scoring quarterback in Mahomes, the number 1 scoring tight end in Kelsey, and the number 1 scoring wide receiver in Hill. And Helaire could still be in the top 12. The 4th best fantasy option, and he could be a top 12 running back.
And that's what obviously limits his ceiling, is when they get to the goal line, Kelsey's number 1. You know they're going to be moving Tyreek Hill around to try to get him on things. So knowing that your running back is option 3 at the goal line, that's not great. That's not awesome. And even then, Darrell Williams is the bigger back. He's kind of the bruiser that they'd probably feel more comfortable at the 1 or 2 yard line. So, yep, that's definitely what keeps him from being an RB1 is being in an offense that does have so many weapons that he slides. But I don't know. I like, he's a little guy. Seems like a good dude. Obviously LSU. I'm always biased towards the Tigers, but Yeah, I think he's going to bounce back. He's going to be better than he was last year.
Kyle, reach or runs, or are we ready for the mailbag? I think you had 2 more for me, right? Reach or run?
No, I gave you them. Mixon was my run.
Carson black out, Goz?
I did. I'm thinking in my head. I actually wrote down Mixon sucks on my piece of paper. I forgot who said it. I literally wrote my piece of paper, Mixon sucks. All right.
Have that be your draft board. Just remind yourself, Joe Mixon sucks.
That's it. You're going to see a big sign at Hooters on Friday. Mixon sucks. Let's get into our mailbag this week. Johnstone Supply is our proud sponsor. You can see their wonderful logo. Wait till September hits. We got this sweet logo that's coming. Ask about the t-shirts, by the way. Johnstone Supply. My guy Tom might take care of you, who's in this league, by the way. The pride of Johnstone Supply in Troy is going to be represented. Give him a call today, 518-272-5922. Fujitsu ductless splits, energy-saving, ultra-low temperature models in your spot. Right now, you're looking to upgrade your home, make those changes that you need for the season's about to change. Johnstone Supply has that for you. Now, by the way, they're carrying the J-Series VRF systems. So if you're looking for more efficiency, more flexibility, they have that for you as well. The Westinghouse made by Fujitsu for that more basic, cost-efficient option. They have all that for you today. Check out their website, johnstonesupply.com. 6th Avenue, Troy. As I like to always say, there's a very famous barbecue place that you can make it a whole day out of it. Enjoy some barbecue over there. Stop at a Johnstone Supply in Troy. Talk trash to our guy Tom and say you stink. You're getting your butt kicked in the Gozilla Media Fantasy Football League. And then buy something nice from 518-272-5922. For this edition of the mailbag, Chet, you've got some interesting takes that I think are just worth diving into because a lot of people are in that keeper league style league. And what you have is some tough decisions to make. And I feel like a lot of people are going to be in the same boat as you coming up here in the next few days.
I am definitely biased towards dynasty leagues. If you aren't in one, I highly recommend it. And I know like at this point in our lives, we're all hovering around 30 or in our 30s. And we're already in too many leagues. Most of us are trying to downsize. It's different. It's different than your normal, you pull a name out of the hat and you draft a team, then you have to start all over again. This is like a completely different beast. And it's so fun to be able to kind of put on the real GM hat and try to figure out value and planning ahead. And if your team stinks, you can still focus on next year and who the guys you want to. I highly recommend it. If you can get guys together, create a dynasty league. There's so many different ways you can also do it, which is fun. When you meet other people that are in dynasty and you compare notes of how do you do keepers? Oh, that's crazy. We only do this. It's just so fun. So I highly recommend it. But this comes from my buddy, Eric McClure, who also is a newlywed. We actually met in Costa Rica. He is from Columbus, Ohio. So go Buckeyes. Ironically, Kyle, he actually has, I know we have a mission on this podcast and Kyle Ray. Ironically, he actually has a dynasty league identical to ours, Kyle.
Really?
It's a 3-keeper league where you can only keep for up to 3 seasons. And every year, the cost of keeping a player is one round higher than where you drafted them a year before. So, for example, if you drafted Patrick Mahomes in the 6th round and you wanted to keep him, he'd be your 5th round pick this year. So he's got 2 questions for us. Both of them are keeper situations. These are full point PPR. He can keep Justin Jefferson in the 16th round or Stephon Diggs in the 7th. Where are you guys going on that one?
Justin Jefferson is my pick, and I feel like that name has been the most talked about keeper player in any style of keeper league because of how low you may have picked him. Let's just say this statement out loud because it's true. He had the greatest.
Predicted it? Is that what you're about to say? Can you pull up the audio file? God, I've learned
legally
something in my entire life.
Legally, I can't use that audio anymore for some reason. But Justin Jefferson, Chet did call a monster season from Justin Jefferson. He had the greatest rookie wide receiver season in the history of the NFL ever. So if you made the argument right now that Justin Jefferson can be as quick as a top 5 wide receiver this season, I can't put up an argument. That's how good he is. So just the difference in 9 rounds. Jefferson is going to be in your lineup every single week and put up monster stats. Justin Jefferson, if you're thinking about it, yes to him. Yes to Justin Jefferson.
It's a coin flip for me between Justin Jefferson and Stephon Diggs. Like, they're both going to be top 5 guys, like you said, guys. Stephon Diggs, arguably the best receiver last year in the NFL. The big difference is you're getting Justin Jefferson for free. Like your 16th round pick is a kicker, and you're getting Justin Jefferson. Whereas Stephon Diggs in the 7th, there's still talent on the board in the 7th round. That could be where you draft your quarterback. That could be your tight end. That could be your wide receiver 3. Like to just know that you have your wide receiver 1 in the bag in your last round or second, whatever, how many rounds you have, that's almost unheard of. So that's the only reason. If we were saying like, one's in the 7th and one's in the 8th round, that's a tough decision. But this one, it's just too much value. It's too good. You got to go with Justin Jefferson.
Agreed. Can I ask why we can't do both though? Imagine that.
That's actually a good question.
And
because if you get to keep 3 players,
your 7th and your 16th, your wide receivers are done. You still have picks.
So it looks like he says you can keep a player.
Oh, okay.
So he only gets to keep 1. So that's why. Yeah. So instead of ours, we keep 3.
You have to do Jefferson. And like you said, value. 16th round for Justin.
It's too good. Too good. So his second question is in a different league, obviously also a keeper. This is really interesting. He can keep Alvin Kamara with the 10th overall pick. This is a 12-person league, full PPR. So he gets Kamara with the 10th or Kelsey with the 15th.
Oh.
My pick, and it's very interesting because my dad, who just started playing fantasy football 3 years ago, has a very similar setup. He got Kelsey at the 16th, and he's going to keep Kelsey. And the reason I would go Kelsey as well, not because it's a lower pick, and we just, very similar to the Diggs Jefferson thing, but you could make a really strong case, and we did this about the Saquon thing, that Kelsey could be a top 5 pick. And we've said this on previous podcasts. You go back and listen, I think we've all been in the same discussion of MVP of fantasy football. Travis Kelsey can be that guy because of the huge drop-off between Kelsey and everybody else. So, yes, Kelsey's my pick, and I think he'd go probably 10 picks higher in most leagues.
Right.
100% agree, but with the asterisk here, you're not making a wrong choice no matter what you do. But, yeah, I would take Kelsey.
Yeah.
Same noise Kyle made.
Just because we know how brutal running backs can be. And to have – we all had Alvin – oh, Kyle didn't even have him in his top 5. But you had him in your top 4, right, Goz?
I had him at 4.
I had him at 3. And so to get that at number 10, because then you got to figure – I'm assuming it's going to be a stake, but I guess I can't assume – you're about to pick again after. That's just woo. Like Kyle said, I don't think you can really go wrong. I'm gonna go Alvin Kamara just because you get that solidified RB1 late in a first round, almost unheard of. You get to pick again in a few spots in the second round. As much as I love Travis Kelsey, now I'm like talking myself out of it. No, I'm going Kamara. I'm going Kamara, and I'm not gonna look back.
I think the only way you can think about that specific scenario too is where are you picking in the first round? If you're picking late first round, go Kamara, because then you have that top talent that you can then maybe late round as the rest of the teams go running back and where Kelsey falls to you. But if you're early, take Kelsey because you're going to get another back.
Does that math make sense? So if he's picking 10th, if this is a snake draft, right? What pick? Then it goes 11, 12. 12 goes again. Oh, yeah. That does make sense. Yeah. So his second round pick is the 15th. So that's why it's one or the other. I got you. It looks a little bit weird when you see 10 and 15. Like, how did I get there? What was your question, Kyle?
So he was picking 10?
Yeah, picking 10. So that's where you get Kamara as the 10th, or he gets to keep Kelsey with his second round pick, which is the 15th.
I think you go Kamara. That late.
Changed his mind.
Yeah, I actually misunderstood the question. I misunderstood what you said, so that's on me. But I think that late, you can't pass up on Kamara.
Right.
That late.
Right. Because then you're looking at your replacement running back in that spot is probably
Saquon.
Yeah. Saquon. And you might Eckler might be the Eckler spot, unless Goz is in your league and then he's gone.
Number 1.
Yeah. But it's kind of funny because I always go like, not that it's always mathematical, but I do go to the value thing. And I guess the Kelsey it's a few more picks where like you're thinking Kelsey's going to be going 5 to 7. So you're looking at almost 10 picks where Kamara's only going to be about 6 or 7 picks.
Yeah.
But just because it's running back, I'm going with Kamara.
I have one more big question. Johnstone Supply in Troy. This might be the number one question people have tuned into this week's podcast for, right at the 1 hour mark too. Ooh. So hopefully someone might have zoomed right through. The Gozilla Media Fantasy Football Draft is this Friday, August 27th, live from Hooters on Wolf Road. Levack and Goz, my pal Levack and I will be broadcasting live from 5 to 7. This is going to be Levack and Goz unfiltered with beers flowing on a Friday at Hooters under the orange roof. I cannot imagine what this show is going to be like. Come to Hooters and enjoy it. Come early and have a few drinks. Brian Katie from the space between your ears and White Heat lost the bet on Twitter, so he's buying a few people drinks to start off the day. So get ready for that show. Again, you can watch it on the Tech East Fire and Water Restoration Facebook page or the Gozilla Media YouTube page and hang out with us. Get an Uber. Drive safe, drink responsibly. It will be a fun night. So let's figure this out. All 14 people have now signed up for the league. We're doing a 14-week regular season, so everybody can play each other once. So that's kind of cool. I should take that back. 13-week regular season. Everybody plays each other once. Week 14 will start playoffs.
How many teams in the playoffs?
I believe it's 8.
Ooh,
I believe we're going 8-4-2.
I like that. So 3 weeks of playoffs. I like it.
How do we determine this draft order? I'm going to spitball some ideas to you guys, what's been going in my head. First of all, I wanted the sponsors to be allowed to pick. So I wanted Hooters, Johnstone Supply, and Tech East to pick. But I'm like, okay, I don't want to rank our wonderful sponsors of like, well, you actually get the number one pick. No, you. So like, all right, I can't do that. Then I thought, well, whoever leaves the comments below on this video, then I'm like, oh man, now we're just being selfish. We're going to be the first 3 picks of the first comments at midnight. So I can't do that. Do you guys have a fun? Then I thought maybe some NFL preseason, like you got to pick a team that's going to score the most points, but I feel like we ran out of time. That would have been fun last weekend. Any ideas? And by the way, I'm open. Right here below, leave a comment. If you got a cool idea, maybe we'll change this by the time I record it. Thoughts on how we determine this order for this draft Friday?
So this isn't going to work in my favor at all because I cannot eat like I used to. Whoever eats the most wings at Hooters gets to choose where they get to pick, and so on and so forth.
But wait a second. What if, I know our guy Dan loves that idea, who runs Hooters. Oh, that's going to be that easy? But what if some people aren't in attendance? We're hoping to have all 14. So that might be a problem too if like, unless they get kicked to the back, but then I can't figure out that side of it. I love the idea.
Video record yourself eating some chicken wings.
Live stream. I want pick 6, guys. You hear me? I'll stop eating.
This is week 20.
I feel like this late in the game, it's boring. You just got to do names out of the hat. Live stream it.
Oh,
you could even do a Gozilla Media live stream or a Facebook Live. Have some fun with it. But because we have nothing to go off of last year, because there are new people in the league, it's obviously a newly formed league, so that's out. Like you said, preseason's just about over. And I want to be like, because Kyle and I are in a dynasty league, and I don't know if Kyle likes to do mocks, but I love doing mock drafts. You can't do a mock draft for dynasty because there's untouchable players that get touched. And I'm like, you can't do it. It's just not real. So giving people enough time to figure out, especially if you've never played in a 14-team league, trying to figure out what it's like to pick 13 or pick number 12, or if you're the first pick. I mean, that's crazy to think we're going from pick number 1 and then pick number 20. Math's hard on that. Is that 28?
27, yeah. 27, 28 at the bottom, yeah.
It wasn't going to be exactly double.
What about this, guys? So
yeah.
Whenever we decide a time, patrons, somebody comes up and say, I want whoever picking first. Like each a different person can go up and say, guys, you're going to pick 3rd. Guys, you're off. You go in the 3rd pick. I want Chet picking 7th. Chet gets put in 7th. I'm picking 14.
What?
Hang on. How many patrons would get to decide? So like
14.
14 different people. Oh, technically 13 because whoever's left is left. Yeah. But I get your point. Like, that's interesting. Somebody random at Hooters says, all right. So maybe the Hooters girls decide it.
Going off of, I like Hooters girls.
You're a married man, Chet Davis. That's your wonderful wife is watching this whole podcast. Turn her right around. Thank you.
Going off what Kyle said. Okay, how about this? We have a board, okay, of 14 numbers, 1 through 14. We are secretly been assigned a number. Or you can even have it like you can just flip it around. You know what I mean? Like, let's say it says Kyle, this is number 1. Kyle Ray's name is behind that. The Hooters girls, it's like a deal or no deal. You pick a box.
Yes.
Boom. This is pick number 8 is going first. And then it reveals the name.
Oh,
perfect.
So we'll have all our names behind 1 through 14. Girl 1 will be the first pick. She'll pick 4. Whoever's at 4 is the first pick.
Yep.
Love it.
Like you pick the box and then it reveals whoever it is.
Yep.
Okay, so here's my plan then. I'm going to get to Hooters far before 5 o'clock. I'll probably get there at 4 o'clock now.
Far before.
I might be taking Friday off now.
Yes.
I might have to.
I like how I say far before. Like whenever my wife lets me leave the house is when I'll be going to Hooters. And then, yeah, that's what we're going to do. I like that decision. Here's how I'll do those numbers, by the way. The Hooters girls won't know this, but I'll probably go by the order in which everybody joined the league. So I'll probably be 1 and blah, 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 blah. Nobody tell them that. And then that's how that number order will be determined. And then the wonderful ladies at Hooters will decide how it all gets picked. And then I will put it on Yahoo as fast as possible. And we're going to have a lot of fun that night.
I'm going to do immediate mock drafting. Just immediately jump in and figure it out. So what are the other rules? I guess I could have looked at it. It's half point PPR?
Half point PPR. So standard scoring across the board.
1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, flex tight end.
The only change, and hopefully everyone hears this who's now figured out the draft board. I only made one change to scoring. It said that interceptions for quarterbacks were -1. I made that -2. Yep. I thought most leagues had -2. So
yeah,
beautiful.
So yeah, I think what we'll do next week is we will kind of not break down every pick of the Gozilla Media League, but I feel like what we did today is a little sneak peek of somebody. We'll just use Chet and Colin for an example here again. Somebody gets that 8th slot, and we talk through like, okay, if you got the 8th pick, here's how the board fell. Here's when the first quarterback was drafted. Do we think that was the right decision? Here's when a rookie quarterback or wide receiver. I think there's going to be a lot of scenarios that are going to play out in this year's draft with us that are going to happen across a ton of leagues. So we'll kind of do that as our recap. We'll talk wide receivers and tight ends. I don't know if we'll do a tight end ranking because it's like Kelsey. Maybe we'll combine some way to do that next week too.
One question, because I'm really curious. Where would you guys want to be picked in a 14-team league? What spot do you want? 5?
5 or 6. 5 to 6. And that's just because flexibility. You can get those running backs that I just listed as my top 5, or guess who else is sitting there? Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to wait until the end of the second. You get it in the mid. So that's my ideal spot. It's 5, 6.
I like 5 because of that value, like you said, too, because you have so much to choose from. It's always hard for me not to go 1. If you can get the number 1 pick and you get to pick the best player every single time, like a real draft, I always like 1.
I just feel like your next pick's so far away. It's just like
more beer.
You're going to be hammered by the second round.
That's right.
Yeah. I think I lean towards Kyle. I want to still get one of those top tier guys and then pick a little bit earlier than in the second round. I think I'm usually one of those late round guys where I like it to have the quick back to backs, but at that point, pick 14. You're going to be. Do you have to go running back there? But you're going to get a second tier guy no matter what.
Yep. I feel like when you have a 14-team league like we do too, if anyone ever, we'll use Josh Allen, right? Let's say it's the 3rd round. Kyle gets a late pick and he just really wants Josh Allen. If you don't take him and you got to wait 25 picks, you're not going to get him on the wraparound. That's why I think it's going to be the really interesting part of this draft is how many guys will admit to reaching on players they just flat out wanted.
Exactly. Agreed.
Well, boys, we'll see you Friday. Sort of, kind of, virtually, reality. The Hooters girls, come join us, man. It's going to be a ton of fun on Friday. Levack and Goz, live from Hooters in the Gozilla Media Fantasy League, influenced by our great people over Hooters, Johnstone Supply, and Troy, Mohawk Honda, and more. We'll talk next week, my friends.
Woo! See you, boys.